It's time once again for some working designs as they localize and bring to America the sci-fi game Vasteel. It was released relatively late in the Turbo's life cycle, making a splash on CD-ROM in 1993. And yes, that's regular CD-ROM, not Super CD-ROM, so this can be used with multiple system cards. Oh, and collector alert, just like Exile 2, this one has a proprietary slipcover, initially shrink-wrapped around the case. There used to be a nice quality reproduction of it floating around too, but anyway, Vasteel is quite interesting, providing gameplay in a hex-based strategy sense. However, it also adds some minor action elements for a unique gaming experience. At the title screen, you are treated to some excellent music and a couple of options. Here you can select Versus Mode, which is a cool variation of the game, featuring over 30 different maps to choose from. The best part is you can play against another human player or just the computer here. With that said, we also have Scenario Mode, which follows the main story. After choosing Scenario, you are treated to a super long backstory via an animated sequence that is super long. What is Vasteel? Well, if we pull out the giant poster included with the game, you'll see that it's actually a solar system. The current emperor of the planet Belos, in the center of Vasteel, is on his deathbed. The eldest son, Vasteel, is next in line to rule. However, the idealistic younger son, Stefan, has political views radically different than his elder brother. After some coaxing, Stefan decides to revolt against his brother and take things over himself.
Stefan, it seems I have your full attention now. Working together, we can carry out a successful coup.
This sequence is well done, with decent voice acting as a whole. Well, you do have this.
Your Majesty, you're in danger here.
And this.
Shelby!
Sure, but there is a lot of audio here, so much so that some of it sounds pretty compressed. Anyway, after this, you are taken to a character selection screen as you choose your own adventure. You can play as Vasteel and follow his story, or as Stefan and follow his. In fact, the cutscenes afterwards overlap based on who you choose. I really like that attention to detail. Now the game truly begins, as we are taken to the hex screen with some happy, upbeat elevator music. The music is pretty good in this game. It's just here at times, it's a bit soft. You wouldn't even think there's a war really happening. As you can see, scrolling around the map, there are icons all over the place, like bases, cities, and more. The manual lays out everything here. In fact, it's a pretty big manual with a lot to study. As with similar strategy games, you basically select which unit you want to move by hitting button 1 to select, move the unit, then hit 1 to end. You can only move within the limits shown by the glowing hexes. On the left, we have some statistics, including the number of cities and factories controlled, the number of units on the map, and the amount of money earned. In the third box, you'll see the number of turns taken and other items in the command indication window. Here you can save the game and load it for a later time, reveal information on available units, bring up the map, and more. As things get more complicated, it's good to have the find function, which allows you to check out the location of units you have deployed. Speaking of, your base has the ability to manufacture units. Here you can select new ones and then deploy them around the map, for a fee, of course. Again, the manual does a great job in the back showing you what can be built, how much they cost, and their various abilities. Both armies are able to put 32 units max onto the map. Of course, you take a turn, and when you're done, well, the other person, or in this case the computer, takes one. You just sit back and wait as it does whatever it wants. Your goal is to basically move your army around, capture cities, build more of an army, etc. Now, Vasteel takes things a step further with moments they call arcade action. There are one-on-one fighting screens where you battle an opponent. It's tricky to maneuver in the small window they give you, but it's a nice concept. You can choose to attack yourself or switch it to auto and sit back and relax. Although I do question some decisions the AI makes on your behalf. There is also another action screen where you have to destroy the enemy's core. So Vasteel is essentially a combination of strategy mixed with a touch of action combat. In a way, you have to be a fan of both genres to enjoy it. The game looks pretty good with some nice backgrounds and color. While very simplistic, the mechs are sharp and have good detail. It won't knock your solar system socks off, but it's not bad for what it is. Vasteel is quite a large game. I've only given you a brief overview of actions and things to achieve. In scenario mode, there are even more cutscenes between segments and a decent amount of environments. Not only does the game have a lot of options, but it can take a long time to finish. This kind of strategy excursion is not everyone's cup of tea, and in this case, you also need to be a fan of strategy mixed with action, so that doesn't help its appeal. But if you can get swept up in the story it provides, and the gameplay is fun for you, well, I think you'll get many hours of enjoyment here. Plus, there's that. I mean, I love it.
Please, go now. Your father must have complete quiet.
Vasteel has pretty fun strategy and action if you're a fan of these types of games. Some of the combat isn't the greatest, and it's not a perfect game, but as a whole, I think it's a really good CD-ROM entry. If the action part is a turnoff, the sequel, released only in Japan, focuses more on the strategy. I think this is the final Working Designs game we will cover on TurboViews, so I guess that's a wrap, everyone.